Yo, what's good? Welcome to Observing the Process. Before we start, I'm hoping you can help me out by supporting the show. You can rate and review it on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen. You can share it with your friends, you can blog about it, or discuss it on your own podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe to my channel and like this video, or you can support it directly. You can do this by going to my website. I'll leave a link in the description. Thank you for supporting the show. Listeners like you make it possible.
In the land of China, people hardly got nothing at all.
No possessions?
And in China, they never go to church.
No religion too?
Or do magic.
Well, it's easy if you try, Dick.
All right, guys. So for today's podcast, a student, I believe her name is Anaella Soray. She reached out to me. She has some questions. She wanted to interview me, and she sent me a list of questions by an email. And I thought what could be kind of cool is I just answer them on a solo podcast. So I'm kind of going to go through these questions and, go through it. Let's see how it turns out. All right. So Anaella asks me, can you introduce yourself? Who are you? Where you're from? When did you arrive in Shanghai and why? So my name's Alex Greenberg. Most of you know I'm from Long Island, New York, and I arrived in Shanghai in January of 2015. So I came here to teach skateboarding. I already told this in the first Solo Observations podcast, but for Anaella, the brief story is got invited here to teach skateboarding, got here, did that for a year, and then it evolved into now it's been 5 years. So next, she asks Instagram and success story. So for people listening, I believe she's a student. I know she's a student. I think business, marketing, that kind of stuff, digital marketing maybe. So the questions are mostly going to be about Shanghai Observed. So she asks, what is your job before you started on Instagram, and what is your job now? So before I started Instagram, mostly was doing video production. I worked with Push, so was an intern, did editing, and eventually worked my way up to a project manager. So managing events and a producer as well. So we did a lot of TV commercials, branded content, and documentary work. Also, even before that, as I mentioned, I was a skateboard coach. So I worked with a lot of international schools, trying to set up programs and be a coach myself. We had an indoor skate park. It was an amazing experience. I loved it so much. And I still even do that today. I have some coaches who do lessons, and I work with schools as well still. I like to do a lot of things. And so I think that leads into what I do now. So now I kind of consider myself a content creator. So I like making podcasts. I like posting content on Instagram, kind of growing a brand, being a jack of all trades. And I still do video production work as well as a drone operator and event management and anything in the creative industry. I really enjoy tackling. So she asks, when did you start your Instagram account? Okay. So I started the Instagram account in, I believe it was November of 2017 or 16, probably 17. It's when the new iPhone 7 came out, because I had a 5 and then I upgraded to the 7 and it took such amazing pictures. So I was like, start using this more, and kind of wanted to practice street photography. I was really into that, and I thought just using a phone and doing a daily photo project could be really fun. And I created an Instagram account, and I called it Shanghai Observed. I called it Shanghai Observed because I wanted there to be almost nothing in the captions. At first, there was no captions. It was simply just hashtag daily Shanghai photo. And I got this concept from a dude named Ed Templeton. Ed Templeton, famous skater from Huntington Beach, California, does Toy Machine, super super big dude in the skate industry. So he does something called hashtag daily HB peer photo. And it's basically a street photography project where he's posting on Instagram very frequently, street photography, Huntington Beach, California. So I wanted to take that concept and kind of bring it to Shanghai and just do daily Shanghai photo. Yeah, so I was taking photos and I was having a lot of fun with it. It felt like a nice new challenge to take a new photo every day, post it. And the stuff that got attention or a lot of like positive feedback was the stuff that was funny, kind of like unexpected. People didn't really know what was going on. And there was like no context behind it. I think that's key is like a lot of the stuff I post, I have little context behind it and people find that like what is going on and tag their friends and kind of just organically grows from there. Yeah, so that's the evolution. Like as it started to grow from a daily photo project that I would almost consider to be my work, it evolved into me chasing the unexpected, strange, wild stuff that you might see in China or Shanghai. And it evolved from my content to me accepting submissions. So a lot of people will send me stuff hoping for me to repost it. I credit them. And yeah. So beyond that, where do I find all this content? I find it through WeChat groups. Aside from the submissions, it almost is all coming from WeChat groups, I would say. So for anyone who doesn't know, WeChat is the premier social media hub for China. I mean, like everyone is on WeChat. You couldn't really live here if you didn't have WeChat. You can do everything. Like I pay for my phone bill. I use it to pay at convenience stores. You can buy plane tickets. So much stuff. The social media aspect, like of having groups with people in like it's like WhatsApp meets Venmo meets Instagram because it has moments. It just has like an aspect of everything you'd want. It's like a super social media platform that kind of taken over China. And so anyways, I'm in a lot of groups and the theme revolves around Shanghai Observed. Like there's other people in China who I'm not the first one to find like content like this. And basically there are groups I'm a part of and they're all posting that type of content. I'm able to take it from those groups and then repost it to Western social media. And I think that's what's somewhat successful is I have access to so much content and like I'm the first to see it in these Chinese social media group WeChat and I'll repost it to Shanghai Observed on Instagram and it reaches a whole nother group of people. Okay, so why did you start with Instagram? What do you like about this social network? Okay, here we go. Love-hate relationship with Instagram. I mean, I love Instagram because it's super simple. A very simple feed, kind of like you post and have like a little gallery of just what you do. But it's changed. I mean, they change the algorithm every now and then. It seems like it's harder to gain a following now than it ever was. They've become so strict on what you're allowed to post. So I've had tons and tons of stress dealing with like posts getting removed and fear of my account being deleted. And I know it's happened to other people who have, even 200, 500,000 followers, and then they'll just pull your account because you broke the guidelines, not even on purpose. Like barely any warning, they'll just get rid of your account. I've gotten several posts removed and it feels like I'm on super thin ice. And I guess I've gotten a lot more strict on myself on what I can share. I've even created Shanghai Observed 2. It's another Instagram account that basically is like what's called a backup account, so that if my main account was to be deleted, at least I have something already going with barely any followers, but maybe it would be able to pick back up. And that's what's terrible about Instagram and kind of having all my eggs in one basket for my brand. It's like I've created this brand that means a lot to me, but it relies so heavily on Instagram. And basically I'm trying to come to terms with if that was ever taken away from me, I just have to deal with it. You can't you can't live in fear. I've had sleepless nights when my first couple posts were being deleted, and like they say, you're on thin ice, and like you could be deleted at any moment. It's kind of terrifying when you've put so like years of work into building a brand, and then it could all be taken away. But that's life. You just kind of got to roll with the punches. Okay. So next, she asks, do you want to convey a message through the photos and videos you post on Instagram? If so, which one? For me, it depends a lot on the individual photo or video itself. But in general, I'm trying to share the experience of visiting China. I think that's one aspect to it. I think a lot of people will come to Shanghai or China on a visit, and they'll see, like, maybe have one air quotes Shanghai observed moment where they're like, what is going on? Like, they don't even know, they can't even believe that they've seen something like that. And then they might come across my Instagram page, which has just kind of like an amplified, exaggerated version in some senses of what they've seen, or maybe real of what they've seen. So it's not something you can really explain to your friends who have never been to China. So what maybe they're able to do is share just my Instagram, and it kind of gives a lot of context or a lot of examples of the wild antics that they might see if you were to visit Shanghai or China. But beyond that, I mean, I'm having a good time sharing content, connecting with people. People really like it. So it just has a life of its own at this point. So I'm just kind of keeping it going. If you could describe your Instagram account in one word, which one would it be? I chose unexpected. I think a lot of the stuff, I just covered this a little bit, but a lot of the stuff you'll see is unexpected, and without context, you're going to be like, what is going on? So I kind of like taking the context away from a video or a photo, and then putting a witty caption underneath it, and kind of like letting it have its life of its own. But beyond that, I like to share stuff that might make people mutter under their breath, like, what the? That's what I do. What is the editorial line of your Instagram account? So my editorial line used to be completely flat. As I talked about before, I didn't used to put any captions on the photos. I simply put #DailyShanghaiPhoto. And kind of, that was part of it, like within the name Shanghai Observed. It's like when you have the word, to me, the word observed means like from afar, kind of from a distance, and you're not really interacting with words. I took a photo, like kind of spy or stealthy like, and without any context or comment, I share that, and people can observe themselves and make their own judgment on what they're seeing. Yeah, so that was my editorial line, was to have that. But then homie Tall T Dan, he thought there was a lot of potential success to come with the Instagram account. And he's like, just take advantage of like meme culture and write these witty captions. So that's what it evolved into. I think a caption can bring a whole new light to a photo or video, like make the person look at the photo or video in a completely new light when they have some type of witty caption to go along with it. I think that can make it a lot more shareable, in a sense, like you want to tag your friend because of the caption sometimes, or you want to share it. So yeah, I do try to make the captions witty and entertaining, and I think that adds a whole nother layer to making the post successful. One story I can share about how the account, I don't know about blew up, but took it to the next level. Well, there's two layers. The first layer is when you get your account kind of shared by other big accounts. For example, Subway Creatures was one of the first big accounts to really share my account, meaning like if I posted a photo and then he'll take that photo and repost it on his account, giving me credit in the caption, and that's key. It gives his followers a place to click through and see the rest of my stuff. So if you get accounts to do that for you, that's the most organic and best way to grow your following. That's still happens to this day for me, and is the reason why I will grow. And what I love to do is do that for other creators as well. Like when I share their photo, I always credit them, and it helps them grow. And yeah, it's big happy family. But beyond that, one real story of like a true jump in my growth, my following growth, was this website called Bored Panda. And I can't believe it worked because it was so calculated. Like, this is, sometimes you'll do stuff that you don't think, like, you're actually trying. From my experience, most of the time when you grow is like by accident. Like, usually like going viral is by accident, but this is one experience where I truly did something to try and grow and it worked. And my friend Rob, Average Rob or Shitty Rob on Instagram, he shared this website called Bored Panda. And basically what Bored Panda is kind of like a BuzzFeed site where you create a list and you kind of create your own article, and they have a really massive following, like millions of followers on Facebook. And so what I did is the name of my list was like, these people have no idea what they're wearing. And I took specifically photos of people with t-shirts that have English on them that are a little absurd. And I assume they don't know what it means because there's a lot of curse words and shenanigans on the t-shirt. And also what I love about these photos is the facial expression that goes along with the person that's wearing the shirt, because they have no idea what they're wearing. And it's all in good fun for me when I share something like that. So the Bored Panda article was, I think, labeled like 11 people or 15 people who have no idea what they're wearing. And like that went viral. They took that post and they'll edit it themselves a little bit. They choose to feature it. And once they featured it on their Facebook page, which I think had like 10 million plus followers, it got so much attention. And even my Instagram page jumped from like 2,000 to 12,000 followers pretty much overnight. And that was the first moment of the Instagram account growing. So I think I went on a nice little tangent there, and we'll get back to the questions. Where does your audience come from? Country, age, and gender. And how does it react to your content? Well, I can tell you my audience is mostly from America and Europe. I think that's heavily dominating countries. Yeah. So with a lot of Shanghai expats as well, about 40% women and 50% male. Yeah, pretty simple. How do they react to my content? I don't know. Most people like it. That's why they follow. I don't really get that much hate mail, actually. Surprisingly, not that many people hating, which is cool. Let's keep that up. How has your Instagram account evolved since its creation? All right, so I definitely talked about the evolution already, starting as a daily photo project, ending up now as more of like a community of people who share stuff and I repost. But in terms of evolution for the coming years, monetizing, growing as a business, creating more of a community around Shanghai Observed, selling t-shirts, selling my photography, doing pop-up events. I'd love to do some pop-up events. Doing this podcast has been awesome. It's a whole nother new challenge that I'm really enjoying. Why do you think your followers like your content? I did share this already. Easy to share your experience of visiting Shanghai or China. Simply put, you see a funny moment, you're able to share that with my page, and you can share my page with other people. So I think that's one reason why people like my content. Funny. It points out some truths in the culture, puts a twist. It's having just a good time. Which post received the most likes on your Instagram account? Okay, so I'll share kind of 3 posts of mine that have gone viral. And what's funny is like they actually go viral on Facebook. It's not so easy to go viral on Instagram because the sharing feature is total shit for Instagram. So I have the stats. One post that got, it reached 2.5 million people, 18,000 likes on Facebook. And this is a video of a dude with an AirPod in his ear the wrong way, like the stem is going into his ear like a Q-tip. So that went viral on Facebook. And it's so much easier to go viral on Facebook because when people share your stuff, it opens it up to their network of people so much better, and you can share it to pages. It's just way easier to go viral on Facebook. And so this video, for example, got shared 51,000 times. 40K likes, reactions. And yeah, so the next biggest one was this this post with a bunch of people giving the middle finger. Like, looks like they're meditating. It's some strange form of meditation. And they're all, and maybe they just don't know what the middle finger means to Western culture. But yeah, so this post got it reached 5.5 million people, 53,000 likes, 40K shares. And then another post, which got the most amount of reactions and performance, was I like this one a lot because it was just a raw clip of this dude farting into like a personal KTV box. And what I did is I added some music. The song is called Mad World. So I slowed down the song a little bit and I added that on top of the video. And luckily I put Shanghai Observed logo at the end. And that got, I think, 10,000 followers on Facebook alone. It's funny how that one just totally went viral out of nowhere. I did not expect that to go crazy. Like right now it's at 92,000 shares. It reached 9.2 million people. It's just a 34-second clip, but it's just ridiculous what can go viral and what won't. So yeah, that's Facebook. And then the middle finger video on YouTube, the middle finger video also posted on Instagram. I think that's my most successful post on Instagram. 42,000 shares and about 19K likes. Yeah, I mean, I find it interesting if you're in marketing or if you're in social media, sharing these numbers, it seems like it's almost like numbing. It doesn't feel like anything different than I've ever done before. I post all the time, every day, and then all of a sudden something goes viral out of nowhere. It's a strange feeling that you can do the same thing over and over every day, and then one day it just hits out of nowhere. So yeah, that's kind of posts that received the most buzz. So moving on to other social media. Yeah, we just covered that. Facebook and Instagram is kind of what I used for Shanghai Observed. YouTube, I like to make videos. I share the podcast on YouTube. I really do not like Twitter. I think it's such a flat user experience. Like the UI is just super retro and just kind of unenjoyable for me. I don't like writing. The hardest part of writing a caption or a post for Shanghai Observed is the caption for me. And that's pretty much everything that is Twitter, is just writing witty tweets. And I just don't enjoy that. So I don't use Twitter. Yeah. Does being on other platforms bring you more visibility? Have you seen any increases? So my opinion on this is that, yes, of course, if you're able to be on every platform, it is going to bring you more visibility. But the most important thing is you have to stay active. You have to maintain your voice. So having an inactive Twitter like I do is probably actually damaging my brand, because if someone finds it on Twitter and they see it's inactive or it's just reposts from Instagram, it looks weak. Like, people feel that and know that. Like, you have to be, the best thing you can do is be 100% active on the platforms that you're on. So if you can commit to Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, great. But realistically, you can't focus on just Instagram and have a true voice there, and don't even have a Twitter. It will actually it will weaken your brand. That's my feeling. Next, we are asked about merchandising. So Anaella, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Anaella, she asks, I saw you started your own merchandising. Since when and why? What is the point of having launched your own merchandising brand? So, I mean, a big part of Shanghai Observed is the t-shirts that we see on the streets. And I thought it'd be really cool to give people who aren't in Shanghai something that they can bring home, share with their friends and family. A t-shirt is a pretty good way to do that. So I sell t-shirts. The stuff I see on the streets, I'll recreate, sell it on my shop. And yeah, I mean, it's also, of course, it's a way to monetize my brand as well. Like, I don't think my Instagram is too advertiser friendly. I haven't had too much luck running ads. So I think merchandise is a super organic and positive way for fans to support the brand. Pretty simple. I want to another challenge for me also to be creative. I built the whole website by myself. I figured out how to do e-commerce by myself. It is not easy to do that kind of stuff. So pretty proud. I set up ShanghaiObserve.com, and you can go shop there. I put all the podcasts up there. I have I guess it's called stories for me. So I'll share, hot, like interesting news stories that have come out, like kind of outrageous stuff where you can't really share it on Instagram because it's too long of a story. So yeah, all of that is up on the website, ShanghaiObserved.com. Now we will talk about the podcasts. Why did you get into podcasts? Well, okay. So I think a year ago, maybe 18 months ago, maybe I did an episode with my man, Arthur King, the Bing King podcast. Loved the experience. It was my first time doing a podcast. I thought it was so cool. Like I couldn't believe I have a problem with my phone where I just spend way too much time on it. Even if I'm out to dinner, I'll end up just checking it like impulsively. It just, it's not good. But when I did the podcast, like you're so locked into a conversation with someone, it would just be like incredibly beyond rude to look at your phone during a podcast. Like there's not much that could drive me to do that. So I just loved this hour-long experience of basically I turned off my phone and, had a beer with my buddy and just kind of shot the shit. And I just loved it. So it took me maybe another 6 months before I got into it. And I figured it's a nice potential way to also, include my audience. I have audience on Shanghai Observed. Another way to interact with them. I have the podcast. You guys can hear me chat, give me questions for my guests. So yeah, that's what I got into it. It's a whole nother challenge and experience. I absolutely love interviewing people. I mean, giving people a platform to share their stories is, something I really enjoy. And I think it's so valuable for other people too. I mean, this dude, Joe Rogan, he does a podcast. And one time he said so even if today this conversation that we're having isn't valuable, maybe in 10, 15 years, this podcast lives on forever and it could be so helpful to someone in the future. And that kind of stuck with me. And, I feel like I'm documenting a period of time in Shanghai as well, with mostly skaters and almost all just expats of China. Just yesterday, I did an interview with this artist, Cha Cha, and she's one of the first, true Chinese citizens that I did an episode with. And I loved it, like hearing her story and hearing her journey and her process. That's the name of the show, Observing the Process. So I get to kind of give my guests an episode to share a timeline of their life, how they got to where they are. And, for one level, it's interesting storytelling. It's entertaining. On another level, maybe they're sharing stuff that my guests can, truly take something valuable away from. Yeah, that's the podcast. What message do you want to convey through the podcast? So yeah, I just covered it, giving the guests an opportunity to really share their story, giving the listeners maybe a chance to learn something and better their lives. I would consider the podcast motivational. Yeah. Being motivating towards the guests, inspiring them to grow, keep moving. And again, she asks, what do we talk about? Mostly it's like a timeline of the guest lives. I'm interviewing expats. And how do I select the people? This is an interesting for me. When I select a guest, they only have to meet the criteria that I find them interesting. I think that's going to make the best podcast possible, is that if I'm truly interested in this person and genuinely want to learn about their life, the questions will be authentic. The conversation will ring true with people. And yeah, so that's how I choose them. If I genuinely find you interesting, I want to learn more, I think that will make for a successful podcast. I had Tim Cito on, and he thought that an interesting angle I could do is my guests it'd be interesting to just have almost no famous people on. Like a lot of people will strive, I want the most famous person to give me the most reach. But if I have actually kind of your Joe Schmo and I'm able to drag or get an interesting story out of them, that's going to be an interesting angle. So I'm going to look at that. I mean, for me, I'm just going to choose the person that I find interesting. If you're interesting, I'm going to welcome you onto my show. All right, the future. What are my plans for the future? How do you see the evolution of Shanghai Observed and your podcasts? Well, going to keep just plugging along with Shanghai Observed. It's kind of a machine at this point. You know, I just repost and have fun with that. The podcasts, also a machine at this point. You know, have guests on. I want to have video component to it so I could post on YouTube. I think people really enjoy watching people have a conversation just as much as they do listening to it. So I hope to add video to it as well. How can you listen? Well, you're listening right now if you found it, but Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts. Yeah, that's a solid 30-second solo podcast. I'm pretty hyped. If you liked this, let me know, man. Or woman, shoot me a message. Let me know what else you want me to talk about solo. This is Solo Observations number 2. All right. Peace, guys. Boom. That's it. Thank you so much for listening. If you found this podcast valuable, there are many ways you can support it. You can rate and review it on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen. You can share it with your friends, you can blog about it, or discuss it on your own podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe to this channel and like the video, or you can support it directly. You can do this by going to my website. I'll leave a link in the description. Thank you for supporting the show. Listeners like you make it possible. Also, if you enjoyed the intro and outro music, it was made by my brother, Danny Greenberg. You can go and check out his beats at soundcloud.com/estoric. ESTORIC. Okay, that's it for now. Peace.